Hey up everyone, I'm back again. So I just wanted to do a very quick comparison review between the Moto X 2014 and the Nexus 6, both of which are flagships from Motorola for 2014-15, and both are very similar in terms of their design, except for the major difference of the size, which is very apparent. But I think there are some other differences that you need to be aware of if you're looking to get your hands on one of these. And obviously the most prominent difference, I think, is the screen, with the screen on the Nexus 6 coming in with a Quad HD at 493 ppi compared to the screen on the Moto X, which is 424 ppi. I think in terms of the day-to-day usage, you're not going to see too much of a difference between the two though, because it has to be mentioned that basically the screen on the Nexus 6 is spread out to a larger area, so that means that the Moto X's screen is at a smaller area, and you're not going to notice too much difference in terms of the sharpness of everything. So I'm very pleased with the displays on both devices. Both of them very pleasant Super AMOLED displays with excellent colour reproduction and viewing angles, and they're very edge to edge as well, about the same in terms of the edge to edge ratio. Can't really notice too much of a difference between them. So very nice displays on these, and they're both covered with Gorilla Glass 3, so it's not the latest Gorilla Glass unfortunately, but it's still going to offer some good protection on both models. In terms of the specifications, you're getting a quad-core CPU on the Nexus 6, which is a Snapdragon 805, and that's clocked at quite a nice speed. I think it's 2.8 gigahertz, 2.7 gigahertz in fact, versus the Snapdragon 801 clocked at 2.5 gigahertz on the Moto X. The actual graphics processor in the Nexus 6 is slightly more advanced as well. You're getting a very nice latest 420 graphics processor. That's an Adreno 420, versus the Moto X, which comes in with its Adreno 330. We can do a quick shutdown test and boot up test to see if the nice Nexus 6 boots up faster than the very nice Moto X. So Moto X still boots down a bit quicker, but we can see if Nexus makes up for that. Mine when he's on the Nexus. Oh wow, so Moto X does actually boot up quicker than the Nexus 6. Nexus 6 seems to take a very long time to boot up. And there we go. So a little bit quicker to get into stuff on the Moto X. But it is worthwhile mentioning the RAM is slightly higher on the Nexus 6, so I think your multitasking should be a little bit more sophisticated. You get 3 gig RAM versus 2 gig RAM, and can try opening up some apps just to see the general responsiveness of both of them. I don't expect there to be huge differences, but we can see. So roughly the same on that one. One thing is a bit annoying about the Nexus 6 is it really does move around on the table, versus the Moto X, which seems to stay still. But we can carry on. So that was a Nexus, I think. Again, very nice speed there from the Nexus. Nexus again. About the same with that. Again, the Nexus just loaded the page a bit quicker. Both very responsive though, which is nice. Oh, Moto X there. Let's try out the street view. So roughly the same. So what else? Roughly the same there, but I think that in general it looks like the Nexus does have a slight performance edge with certain things. I think that's to be expected with the more sophisticated processor as well as the the more plentiful RAM. But you can just have a quick look at the multitasking as well. One strange thing about the Moto X that I've noticed is that even if you restart the device, it seems to keep everything still in the memory, so they're still there when you go back into it again. And we can see that was a lot quicker on the Nexus. Again, Nexus. And remember, all these minutes do add up that you're left waiting. So, quite conclusive there. Nexus is pretty much a speed demon compared to the Moto X. But those are not only the only differences. The cameras are slightly different. They both use the same IMX sensor from Sony, which is a 13 megapixel, same as the one in the LG G2, S4 and G3. But this is supplemented with the OIS. And I'm going to take a few shots just to see if we can see any preliminary improvements of the camera. But I have heard some good things from the Nexus 6's camera, and I do expect it to have better performance in low light, which is quite a weakness on the Moto X. Software is very similar, in terms of the build of both of them. However, the Moto X does come with its touchless controls, which means you can turn the device off and then say, "Hi Dexter's Laboratory, what do you think of Siri?" so it doesn't tell me what it thinks of Siri, but you can see there you don't get the touchless control system, but you do get the active display or active notifications on the Nexus 6. So seems to be a bit weird of how it actually comes on though. Seems to have like a mind of its own. Whereas if you just hover it across on the Moto X, you can see it coming on there. But for some reason this just doesn't want to come on very often. But it is on, and like it should be showing me this little notification on the front screen. So you can find this particular setting in the display options. It's called ambient display. They keep changing the name so much I can't keep up, but it's basically the same thing as your active notifications and stuff on here. So quite cool that they've migrated that across to the Nexus line. But other than that, I think the software is relatively similar in terms of the options, etc. You know, it's very stock and geared towards giving you the speed. Both treated with nano coating, so they should be like water resistant if you do end up dropping them in water. They shouldn't take too much damage, but I don't think they're completely water resistant, so I wouldn't go dunking them in water for a long period of time. So it's nice that Motorola did do that. In terms of the front camera, you're getting a 2 megapixel camera on the Moto X, which can film in full HD, and also a front camera on the Nexus 6, which is 2 megapixels, so very similar in that respect as well. Both of them have front-facing speakers, or speaker in the case of the Moto X, because it is quite strange in that this isn't actually a speaker, but it does look like it. So you got the sound projecting towards you, which is quite nice. We can do a quick test of that in a moment just to see which one sounds louder. An area which the two do differ is in terms of the battery life. And playing around with the battery today, after giving it one charge, I've got 71% remaining. So I think that the battery life on the Nexus is definitely going to be stronger, with its 3220 mAh versus 2300 mAh. Both are fixed, unfortunately, so you know you're not going to get access to the battery. And you do get a cool accessory with the Nexus as well called the turbocharger, which I've not actually used yet, but I do plan to see what benefits it does when it comes to the charging. But in general, I think you're going to get a better battery life with the Nexus 6. And I think the other obvious main difference between them is the size, obviously. With the 6-inch profile of the Nexus versus the 5-inch or 5.2-inch profile of the Moto. And I have to be honest, the Moto is definitely more pocketable and comfortable to use in one hand. Like you can easily get your hand around it and do stuff. But this big daddy, you're going to have to use two hands, which isn't too much of a problem because it does have a benefit in regards to the, like when you're web browsing and you want to do something, you've got that massive keyboard and it makes typing just so much easier. So I think the size is something that you can definitely get used to on the Nexus. It's not, you know, amazingly like too big. And as you can see, I've set up a whole family there on the Nexus. So you can quickly do that. And you can see you have like a different background and like theme for each one, which is quite cool, and it remembers it all. So definitely digging the multi-user support. So how can the little Moto X keep up with the Nexus 6 versus its speaker? We can have a look now. So not bad there from the Moto. Oh, it seems that the little Moto is a little bit louder there according to the scientific instruments, but I didn't notice too much of a difference sitting here, if I'm to be honest. But we can have a look at the GPS performance on both of them to make sure that they are solid. Both are on high accuracy. Seems that the Moto X is using a few more, but the Nexus is more accurate. Very similar on this, obviously. Because they both come from Motorola, so not much difference there, but it does seem that the Moto X seems to have more stable connections compared to the Nexus, which seems to be a bit all over the place. We can do a quick chew through the quadrant as well. Wow, the Moto X seems to be a bit ahead there. That would be unexpected. So they're both done, and we can see from the scores that it looks like the little Moto X has got a slight lead over the Nexus 6 there, which is very unexpected. But see if we can find out where that is. Seems that the memory scores very high on the Moto X compared to the Nexus 6, so maybe they're using cheaper memory on the Nexus 6. Anyway, so yeah, just wanted to do this quick comparison. and I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, hit the like button or subscribe, and I will see you next time.